So we've finished the dagger and now it needs a sheath. So here she is. Quite happy with that as far as the dagger goes. And this is the material. This is brain tanned buckskin, which has been heavily smoked. It's the neck of a fallow deer. So you can see the material is quite thick. And that's going to make a nice little scabbard. So we'll get that cut out. And we'll carry on with the story and see what happens to Finn as he makes his way away from the river. They were trying to make their way through the reeds, which were nearly 6 foot high, mixed up with thistles and nettles. This was proving to be hard going, and they were blind to see which direction they were actually moving in. All they had was a sense that the river was behind them. This went on for several hours. It was disorientating and everyone was getting soaked. Finally they started making some headway. Things became more open. And ahead of them they could see trees. At last a sense of relief swept over the whole family. Suddenly, to their delight, as they opened into a clearing, they spotted a small deer and immediately went into stalking mode. Father took one of his arrows quickly out of its quiver and then moved to get into a better position. Just as he was about to take the shot, Finn stood on a branch. But it was too late. Their cover was broken. I'm sure you can imagine how Finn was feeling about this. He looked at his father with despair on his face, but his father just smiled back at him. Now, you would think that from anybody's perspective of hunting, standing on a twig and giving the game away was a real no-no. But this is what they did. They did it all the time. And Father knew that hunting with a bow, particularly when you're moving on to the game, was a very noisy thing to do. And the likelihood of actually getting there was quite remote. So they started moving on. And after the day they'd had, all they really wanted to do was settle down, make a camp up, and try and get a fire going. I'm sure that you can imagine the importance in this. They're cold, they're hungry, they're feeling fatigued, and a great sense of relief swooping across them that they actually managed to get out of that great big reed bed. The first thing they needed was a nice piece of dried bark to set everything up on. Then with a piece of flint, they ground away at the chagga to create some of the bright orange dust. They needed enough that could safely try and catch a spark. The sparks were raining down onto the chagga. We just didn't know if it was going to be too wet or too damp. The first time they tried, it just got covered in the dust, so they had to shift it around a bit and try some more. Then all of a sudden they noticed a little wisp of smoke. It looked like they were going to have fire. They put some reed mace into like a bird's nest made out of some dried grass they'd clipped, And now the difficult bit was to try and pick this up without destroying it. It went under it was a small amount of flint and deposited it very gently into the middle of the bundle. One breath at a time, the glow in the middle of the bundle got brighter and brighter. And soon it burst into flames. Success. They had fire for the night. Well, getting the fire going was a huge success to them. That was something they really needed. But they couldn't just sit back. All three of them ran around collecting firewood that would see them through the night. After that, they got together and made a makeshift camp. Only on this occasion, what they did is they kind of put a washing line up and hung all of the wet things over. They were relieved just to stop walking today, and all of them knew that for one period of time they didn't actually know if their lives was in their hands, because they had no idea when they were going to get to the end of the reed bed. For tea that evening, they had the other half of the fish. They didn't want it cold, so they stripped off some fresh living bark, placed the fish between it, and then put that on the side of the fire. And then meanwhile, while the fish was warming back up, they gorged on a small amount of the honey, recuperating some of the energy that they'd lost during that day. Well, I don't know about you, but I thought their guts were for garters in that reed bed, didn't you? And there's the dagger done. I'm going to have to find another project to continue the story, aren't I? And I won't leave it too long. But what I can tell you at this point is this dagger is going to be first prize in my next raffle, and I'll do a post about that sometime soon, and maybe one of you will win. We're going to call it the Finn Dagger. Cheers for watching.